Hello and welcome to the next episode of 3Din30. This is Velo3D's IMTS 2022 preview. 3Din30, if you're new to the platform, is Velo3D's LinkedIn Live and YouTube Live channel. We host this about every 2 weeks or so, depending on the trade show schedule. And we're going to dive into a new topic every time. We do have a large trade show that we're going to talk about today that will actually interrupt the schedule. So make sure that you follow Velo3D to get the latest show updates and timings. All right, so if you're familiar with IMTS, you know it's been 4 years since the last live show, and it's been 4 years since Velo3D debuted its technology at IMTS 2018. That was the very first show that we were a part of, and so kind of has a special meaning for us to be back at this show. And we've got a lot of new things that we've done in the last 4 years, a lot of new innovations that we're looking to roll out to the industry. We're going to give you a sneak peek for that. If you've been following Velo3D, it's a very exciting time for us. We recently launched our largest platform ever, the Sapphire XC 1MZ. This is the world's largest laser powder bed fusion build volume of its class. And so it has been in very high demand. We're getting a lot of interest for that. We've also launched a number of new alloys. Our most recent one was a copper alloy called GR-Cop42. This is a copper alloy that is used mainly for combustion engines and the space industry, another very popular alloy. We're going to give you a sneak peek of one that we have actually not announced. We're going to talk about it today. You're going to be the first ones to hear about it, so stay tuned for that. That'll be pretty exciting. We're going to have some more information about that in the next couple of weeks. So with so much to talk about, printers and parts and applications, we're even going to have a special guest star at our booth at IMTS 2022 this year. But you don't want to hear me talk about it. So let's bring in the stars of the show. Our sales director for Central US. This is Nick Oyer. Welcome, Nick.
Hello, everybody. Thanks, Mike.
We've got our technical business development manager, Matt Care Bear Karesh. He is a late minute addition. We did have somebody else scheduled. Josh was scheduled, but he had a conflict, so we brought on Matt. Great to have you, Matt.
Hey, Mike. Thanks.
And our senior field marketing manager, Caitlyn Spuhler. How are you doing, Caitlyn?
Good. Thanks for having me, Mike.
So for everyone on the show, this is a live show. Make sure to bring in your questions. We are looking forward to hearing from you. And we've got some comments coming through. So we're going to address those in just a minute. First of all, let's go through some introductions. Caitlyn, can you give us a little bit of a background about yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. So I've been with Velo a little bit over a year now. One thing I love to do is plan events, and that's what I do in my role. I used to be a wedding planner, did trade shows, and that's how Velo found me. So since I've been with Velo, I've done 41 events so far, and it's been an awesome time. We've done trade shows. We do our road shows. If you've been following us on LinkedIn, we go to a variety of cities, and my favorite so far has been Japan. I got to go there this year, so that was amazing. But I love planning the events, and IMTS, this will be our biggest show of the year. So that will be coming up, and that's September 12th through the 17th. So excited to go to that one. It will be my first time at this event. So great.
Is this the biggest booth Velo's ever had?
Since I've been with Velo, yes. It's a 30 by 50 this year. We'll be in the West building, right in the front.
I think that's the largest we've ever done. So definitely pretty cool. We do have some shout outs from the audience watching. So a lot of people saying hello. So hello, Mohammed. Hey, Scott. Hopefully we'll see you at the show. Frank, good to hear from you. Lots of people tuning in. Rachel, glad that you can join us. One of our new employees is Rachel, and she'll be monitoring the channel here and responding to some of your questions. Matt, can you give us a bit of a background?
Yeah, so my name is Matt Karesh, part of our technical business development team. And effectively what our group does is work with customers to help understand our technology, how to design and use our technology, get connected with our contract manufacturing network if you have parts that you need to get printed, and help you through that entire process and even beyond, really to focus on getting you into production. So not just the prototyping phase, but truly taking your parts all the way through to production. My background is in engineering, so I have a mechanical engineering degree. Did a couple of years design work at Caterpillar on backup power generation. And then from there went to GE Aviation and did several years in the aviation design world doing high pressure turbine blade design. And from there joined to kind of help start GE Additive and did a lot of work on laser powder bed fusion, electron beam melting, along with binder jet, working with a bunch of different industries and applications. And since have been at Velo a little over a year now, doing more commercially focused technical roles and working with customers.
You know, one of the things I love about hosting these shows is we talk probably daily, but we don't talk about your background. I didn't realize how broad a scope you've worked with. Like you've kind of worked with the whole gamut of technologies. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Nick, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I've spent more than 30 years in manufacturing systems, primarily subtractive manufacturing. My first IMTS was 1992. So it's been, I think, 13 shows altogether over every other year, and been just under a year with Velo3D. It's exciting technology, and it's definitely at the forefront of innovation, that's for sure. I think IMTS is probably the largest show in the Americas, and certainly one of the largest shows in the world. And it's going to be an exciting show. Having been off 2 years ago, I think we're going to see a lot of new things, a lot of new faces, a lot of new technology. And I'm excited to see what all is going to be revealed at IMTS.
Well, let's not make them wait. So, Caitlyn, let's talk about it. This is going to be pretty exciting. What do we have in store for everyone?
Well, it has been a long time since we've been at this show, so almost everything in our booth will be new to IMTS at this show. We'll be highlighting our newer systems, the Sapphire XC and 1MZ as well, Sapphire XC 1MZ, and we'll have over 30 parts in our booth, some brand new parts that have never been shown. A variety of those parts will be different metals, our newly launched metals that we're going to reveal here soon. Yeah, this is a little bit of a mock-up of our booth. It'll be a little bit different, but we can do demonstrations of our software Flow and Assure as well. And we'll have actual mock-ups of our build volumes in our booth that Mike touched on. That's the largest build volume. To really give you an idea of how big it is, as well as some new parts that will be front and center for you guys to feel and touch on them. A lot of people, every time they come into our booth, they're like, this is as printed, and they're just amazed. So we love to get these parts out in front of people on the show floor, and just excited to be at the event for the first time. Nick says it's a huge show, 6 days long. This is the first show I've been, 6 days and on a Saturday. So I'm excited. We'll have 15 plus members of our staff between sales, marketing, technical sales, business development. So somebody to talk to from every department. Our CEO, Benny, will be there as well to kind of just get a deep dive into, how did Velo3D come about and how we're different. So it will be an exciting show. We have more to touch on about what's going to be on our show floor and in our booth, but we are in the West building, and our booth number is 433031. And we will put up in a little bit just a reminder that you can book a one-on-one meetings. We have over 30 meetings already booked, so it's going to be an exciting show.
433031, right?
433031, yes, awesome. In the West building.
that is going to just stick right in my mind.
That shows it's a large show, right?
That is a very large show. So Nick, we kind of mentioned some of the platforms, Sapphire XC, Sapphire XC 1MZ. you're kind of working with customers on these platforms. What are you seeing or hearing from them? What's making these platforms so exciting?
Yeah, Mike, it's interesting. The XC platform was debuted, towards the end of last year, I think Q4. And then the XC1MZ, the 1 meter build platform was debuted just a couple of months ago. And the interest on that large frame, that large build chamber has been just astonishing. Our original idea was that people would build more small parts in these large build chambers, and hence, increased productivity, et cetera. What we're finding is it's at least half of the people who are looking into that large frame are just building larger and larger parts. The XC1MZ is the largest build chamber for a mainstream laser powder bed fusion machine. Of course, our patented non-contact recoder and integrated metrology. This machine, the XC and XC1MZ, both have 8 lasers. There's 8 lasers working simultaneously. And thanks for putting that up. So 4 years ago, the machine that we talked about was the one all the way on the left, the Sapphire, 315 by 400 millimeters. That was the build chamber for Sapphire. Then we introduced the Sapphire 1MZ and increased the build height from 315 diameter by 400 to over 1,000 millimeters in height. Then we debuted the XC, which XC stands for extra capacity, 600 by 550. And then again, earlier this year, the 600 by 1,000 millimeter build height. And the interest in that has just been, again, phenomenal.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. One of the things that we love showing at trade shows are parts. And Matt, I want to kind of talk a little bit about some of the parts and that we're both going to have at the show, but also some of the things that the Sapphire XC platform is enabling.
Yeah, I think we're seeing kind of the full gamut, Nick alluded to, of different types of parts in terms of application and size. So the original intent of the design of the system, to its name XC, extra capacity, was to develop parts on our smaller Sapphire platform, get the process worked out and all the designs fixed, and then scale up your production on the XC system, effectively making more parts more economically. And we're seeing that for sure. But as Nick mentioned, we're also seeing these very large monolithic components. So think things like very large diameter shrouded impellers and volutes and thrust chambers, making parts that, quite frankly, just aren't capable of being made today on other technologies. And having what we put into these systems and things like the automated calibrations is really what allows us to make these monolithic parts that we're using all 8 lasers simultaneously to very efficiently and effectively use the entire build volume and create these really high quality, high value components.
Nice. Now, can you kind of talk us through, I know we've got an image here of one of these we've printed recently. Can you give us some of the background on this part?
Yeah, so this was actually a nice collaboration between ourselves and a couple other companies, the primary one being KT Engineering out of Huntsville, working on a program called ARISE, which is a Air Force Research Lab program, trying to study some of the different things in the hypersonic space. So this particular part is a thrust chamber assembly, effectively a cooled rocket engine, if you will. And what it is doing is essentially containing the combustion event in the rocket engine and generating the thrust. And the material that was shown is a GR-COP 42, which we've recently released. That's a NASA developed alloy and really focused on high thermal conductivity, high strength properties at high temperature environments, aka thrust chambers, where you're essentially containing this explosion event. And the way they're able to do this and why these parts make a ton of sense on our system is the ability to wrap or integrate these cooling channels around the thrust chamber itself, which allows the component to stay alive in these really strenuous high temperature environments and also give additional performance by effectively preheating the fuel, which is also used as the cooling fluid to keep the part lot of cool things coming together, new material, new applications, new designs, bigger volumes, print bigger parts for these bigger engines, and really allowing these small startup space companies to bring these new designs and new applications to life in this, what we're seeing, I guess, Space Race 2.0 coming to life in front of us.
Nice. And we kind of walked through a couple parts. Caitlyn, what are the main parts that we're going to have at the show? What are the sort of must-see parts? I know we're going to have a lot, but maybe just some of the highlights.
Yeah. So we'll have a variety of parts, some older parts that have been printed on our Sapphire system that been around different shows, with that's ramjet, heat exchanger, but the main featured parts that are newer to us this year, plus IMTS, we have a 1MZ rocket engine that will be there. A launcher tank hasn't been at the show before. Plus some XC parts, our Stator Ring, which is featuring the low angle blades and internal cooling. That's our friend Peter right there. That was at Rapid this year. Plus a new XC part. First time it will be shown at any event is a XC Dome Closeout. And this one we're pretty excited about. So there will be a special kind of theme going on with this part, if you can imagine. And then also, we have some new metals that will be in the booth too. GR Cop 42, we already talked about that. And a newer one, first time being mentioned, drum roll, is the M300. So we will have a part in our booth that has that material as well.
Okay, let's unpack all of that. There's a ton of information to go through. You mentioned sort of this first time this part's been shown. I think you called it the dome closeout. Matt, what would you use this for? I mean, it looks like it's just going to protect a superhero from a supervillain, but obviously, probably something more than that.
Yeah, we're seeing this the skyrocketing market for vibranium, but aside from that, it's typical surfaces you see on things like shrouded impellers, where you have very low angle, very large spans that require this supportless ability to be able to generate these flow paths and get the desired features, geometries, and performance out of these parts. So that part that we've shown there, while it looks semi-solid, the underneath that part is purely just free powder. So you can see the little cutouts on the sides and some powder kind of falling out. That is simply just a wall around the outside to hold that kind of edge down, and then everything underneath is, again, free powder. And a perfect example of how you would be able to create things like shrouded impellers or very large low angle tanks, like what Launcher is doing, and create these surfaces again without having support structure to be able to generate those features.
And just for scale, this dome closeout and this stator, I believe they're about the same size. So this is a very large part. You don't have the scale necessarily there, but this is on a 600 millimeter build plate, right?
Yeah, so that's on the order of 500 millimeters in diameter, which is quite impressive, especially considering there's no support underneath that part.
Very nice. And we've got another. Well, since we mentioned Peter, what is this Stator Ring? What do engineers use a part like this for?
Yeah, so not too terribly uncommon to find these in power generation or aviation types of applications where you're usually converting energy or fuel to energy. And typically how those are done are in segments and multiple piece assemblies, or even if you're using additive on smaller systems, you're having to break them up because you simply can't fit that large of a diameter on most of the additive systems out there. So by combining our additive technology with our larger XC platform, we're allowing engineers to greatly simplify this component or this assembly, which allows them to take out things like stack up tolerances and assembly operations and part quantities and lots of things that lead to challenges with performance of the part. Think of things like leakage around all those interfaces and variation and variability coming out of the manufacturing process. By creating these monolithic parts, you eliminate a lot of that complexity, if you will, and really simplify the design. At the same time, allowing you to do things like adding really complex cooling schemes, internal geometries to really enhance and improve the performance of these types of components and give you better life, durability, and again, performance in these applications that allows you to take your designs and your overall systems kind of to that next step of, again, performance and what they're able to do.
Nice. And you mentioned, Caitlyn, you mentioned M300. First time we're ever talking about this. This is a pretty awesome new material. What can you, or Matt, what can you tell us about this material?
Sure. So it's a steel that's really based or focused for tooling type applications. So a high hardness steel that looks to address the need in what we're seeing now is like high pressure die castings. That the challenge there is being able to cycle through and be in a pretty strenuous thermal environment. So imagine you're injecting this really hot molten aluminum into this die to create these parts. And what is driving the life and the durability of that component along with the throughput of that process is the ability to manage heat through that component. So having the material, the M300 as a base alloy, which is giving you the hardness you need for these inserts, and having the ability to then incorporate large cooling channels inside them gives you the ability to manage that heat through the process and increase the durability, the longevity of that part, and increase the throughput by being able to pull that heat out really fast. And so what Velo is able to do particularly well is put in very large diameter cooling passages, which just enhances your ability to remove that heat and again, increase throughput and increase the longevity of those types of parts.
And you kind of mentioned large. What are we talking about here? Like what would be small? What would be large in this context?
Yeah, so what you typically see on what we refer to as like legacy AM systems is somewhere on the order of like a 5 to 7 millimeter diameter hole is about the limit of what you can typically find. And on Velo systems, we push on the order of 100 millimeter diameter holes. So probably not going to have a 100 millimeter diameter hole in a single part, but the ability is there, right? So not uncommon to have 15, 20 millimeter diameter holes running through these inserts to really flush through some coolant and bring the temperature of those inserts down.
So, I mean, you're not talking about like 10%. You're like an order of magnitude improvement here. That's pretty drastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what about the Sapphire XC, or do you see this M300 being more for the Sapphire, or do you see it being in demand for the larger platforms? Where do you think it would fit?
I think you'll see a combination. So for some of the like larger automotive companies doing larger die casting parts, they're going to be looking to push the limits of what we can produce from a size perspective. But there's plenty of tools and casting shops out there that are doing small components. And for them, honestly, throughput is just as important, right? If they can increase their throughput 10, 20, 30%, that's profitability for them and their shops. So I see the whole span being utilized for this material in terms of size.
Impressive. That's pretty cool that we're getting into automotive. I know for a couple of years we've sort of avoided automotive, but now we're going to come after it. We've got a great application. Sounds like with these with M300 mixed in with the high pressure die cast inserts. And for the audience, if you have any questions, just a reminder, we are live. If you would like to ask anything of the folks that are here, please feel free to do so. We're going to monitor the chat channel and get to your questions. But Caitlyn, I want to cycle over back to you. I know we've talked about platforms. I know we talked about applications. I know you got some things planned for us at the booth that aren't systems and applications. So what are the kind of these must-see moments at the booth?
Well, do you enjoy beer, Mike?
I'll have a couple.
How about the audience? Give us a thumbs up. At a trade show, you're on your feet for 7 hours. No, in all seriousness, we're going to have a fun event. It's 6 days, this show. So we want to mix a little fun in there. We're going to have a happy hour on day 2, September 13th from 3 to 5 p.m. And we'll have local craft beer from Brickstone Brewery, as well as appetizers, other beverages for all of our attendees as well. We're going to have a raffle drawing, tons of giveaways, and just a fun event to mix in there, to mingle with our staff, come talk with our CEO, Benny, as well as the other 15 team members. Us 4 here will all be at the show, so come mingle with us. We're going to have, we already have 30 meetings booked for this event too. So I just want to say, if you want to have that one-on-one time, we'll post a link here that you can book a one-on-one meeting to secure your spot, who you want to talk to. Just fill out that form and we'll get back to you and secure that. But we have some other fun things. You'll just have to stop by and see.
Well, if anybody wants to leave in the chat their favorite beer, we can see if we can add that to the menu.
Of course.
Yeah. We do have a special visitor. We kind of mentioned that before. We kind of mentioned some other
How could I forget? Yes. Yeah. So the dome closeout that we showed you before, we will have a special guest featuring that event or that part, carrying it around, and it is Captain AM. He is going to be the expert in additive manufacturing. So come and take a photo with him. That's how you will enter the raffle. Post that with the Captain AM hashtag. And it will just be fun, interactive, and come see this part, how big it is, and just how amazing it is in person. And Captain AM, you got to come see him.
Absolutely. And in true Velo3D fashion, we're not hiring an actor to do this. This is actually an AM expert. We're not going to tell you who is going to wear the costume, but I guarantee if you know Velo3D, you probably know who this person is. So bring your cameras, make sure to take some selfies, get some pictures holding the shield. This is going to be pretty amazing. Oh, sorry, the dome close out. Yes. Pretty amazing opportunity. So Nick, you mentioned, and I don't remember the date, but you mentioned you've been going to IMTS for quite some time. What's unique about this show? What's like the must-see things about IMTS? What makes it so powerful?
You know, IMTS stands for International Manufacturing Technology Show. It's been going on for many, many years. This is my 13th show over the last 30 years. And there's always something new to see. You know, a customer met with us at a recent trade show and made this statement. I think it was so profound. They said additive manufacturing is really accelerating the pace of innovation. And what they meant by that is that, you know, the things that we dreamed about making 20 years ago, we started making 5 years ago. The things we dreamed about making 5 years ago, we started making 2 years ago. The things we're dreaming about making this year, we can actually make this year because additive has become so powerful and so strong. So I think the AM Pavilion in the West building of IMTS at McCormick Place is going to be just really, really full of great things to see, especially the Velo3D booth, right? So we want to see you guys at the show. Please come by and see.
You know, you mentioned things that you're imagining at the beginning of the year, you're realizing at the end of the year. I go to Launcher. So Launcher is a Southern California space company, and they did exactly that. They basically started the beginning of the year working on a satellite design called Orbiter, they have plans to put that in orbit in November. So
Let's see. It's
amazing.
It is.
The pace of innovation is incredible. And, we're not talking about like a cup holder here. We're talking about parts. We're talking about propulsion. We're talking about fuel storage, structural, like all of this being printed. This is not just a bracket that gets evaluated for, 15 years. This is actually real world mission critical parts. So pretty amazing.
Absolutely.
And if you do want that story, we do have a case study, which Amir, maybe we can put that case study in the notes here. Scott, I do see your guess at who it will be, and I would just say we have hired more than one of them. We have lots of Zachs at our company now. So which one?
It's a statistically safe guess, right?
It really is.
Yes.
We have more Zachs than Mikes.
That's right.
Which is really interesting. So Matt, I think we're about up on time here. What are your final thoughts? What are you looking forward to at IMTS? What excites you the most?
I think really just talking to the people and seeing their reaction to what we can do with our latest technology, right? In terms of size, in terms of quality, and stitching 8 lasers together to make some truly production ready, high value components. And to Nick's point, like being able to make these parts for people that are dreaming of things they want to make today, right? And being able to connect them to the technology and allow them to do that. That's what I love most about these shows and connecting with the different people.
Nice. Caitlyn, what's got you the most excited about the show?
Well, I've had many hours planning this event. So my highlight is seeing it all come together and it goes smoothly, hopefully. And just interacting. I don't have an additive manufacturing background, so I learned so much at these shows, hearing the conversations with the customers, the attendees. So I just love learning more. And the fun happy hour, I'm very excited about hosting that and just having some fun, throwing some fun in there too. But yeah, we'll post the link again. Make sure you add the calendar invite to remind you about our happy hour so you can come have a beer with us.
Awesome. Well, everyone, thanks for joining. Audience, thanks for hanging out with us as we talked about the preview for IMTS 2022. Be sure to come by the Velo3D booth. This is going to be a must-see section of the show. We like to keep the wheels turning in terms of innovation. So every show we go to, something's there that is a new must-see thing. Something's new. And for the most part, the world has never seen anything like it before. So this show will be no exception to that. Panelists, thank you. Great contribution today. An awesome session. And I'll put up the happy hour notice as we sign off. But thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thanks, Mike.
See you there.